Today I'm going to be talking about semi-freeform dreads and when I knew they were for me. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the Atreyu Locs channel. Hi, I'm Atreyu, a semi-freeformer who is dedicated to bringing you the best tips to grow a healthy set of locks. If this is your first time, make yourself comfortable. I am glad to have you. So yes, believe it or not people, I did not always start out as a semi-freeformer. That is to say, I was a hardcore retwister, meaning I retwisted, I guess not super hardcore, so not like every 2 weeks. To me, that's like crazy hardcore. But I did start out retwisting once a month because that was what I saw everyone else do. And to be honest, it definitely worked for me in many ways. One way in which it worked for me is that as I later came to find out, I have hair that grows away from my locks. So during that, I would say first year and 1 month that I retwisted every single month, once a month, I had nice, cylindrical, even shaped locks over that period of time. And you know how people say your locks tell a story? Well, you can always go back and look at your locks and you can tell what was done to them or what was not done to them. For instance, you know, is it thinning out because it was bleached in that area, or is it like a little bit tighter, like narrower because maybe you interlocked instead of retwisting, things like that. So your locks really do tell a story in terms of the types of things like maintenance that you did to them or did not do to them. And of course it tells a story in terms of like what's going on in your life, but that's more so by association. Like you remember, okay, my locks were this length and this is going on in my life. So anyway, getting back on track, because you guys know I have a habit of going off on tangents. All my friends will tell you that. It makes conversation so interesting, doesn't it? I think so. But I know you guys want to hear about my semi-freeform locks and how I came to hop onto that quest. So let me get back. All right, so yes, I started out retwisting once a month for about a year and a month, and it was great and I loved it. But at that point, there were a lot of people saying that you should not retwist so often because it can lead to thinning, which it can lead to thinning. So I started abstaining and going like 2 months without retwisting, and then 3 months without retwisting, and then again 2 months without retwisting. And guess what, people? My locks started to thin out, and I was like, what the heck? I thought too much maintenance thinned your locks out. Why are my locks thinning out when I'm doing less maintenance than I was before? It didn't make sense. But then after doing research and watching tons of lock videos, especially a lot of the videos from Yanni the lockologist, I learned about the concept of hair growing away from your locks and hair growing into your locks. And if you have been subscribed to me for a while, you know that I have spoken about that phenomenon in several videos. So I will leave a link to one of those videos at the end of this video, so definitely check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I figured out what my hair was doing. I will say that while I was abstaining from retwisting every month, while I was waiting 2 and 3 months to retwist, I kind of liked not having to do maintenance so regularly. But when my locks started to thin out, I was like, I guess I can never like be a freeform where I can never go without doing maintenance because my locks are gonna thin out and then break off. And it was a very sad reality until I discovered the braid technique, which also I learned from Yanni the lockologist. I also have videos showing you how to do that. And so then I realized that I actually could become a freeformer or semi-freeformer, but I would need to incorporate the braid technique every so often. So the braid technique is kind of what allows me to be a semi-freeformer. So I started to do that, and I learned that I would only have to do the braid technique, you know, every like 4 or 5 months. Like I could do it one time when I did maintenance, and then I could go several months without doing maintenance, and my locks would not thin out because the hair that I braided into my locks would actually stay in them, which was a beautiful thing. It's kind of almost like if I had hair that grew into my locks, then I wouldn't have to worry about my locks thinning, right? One year I went an entire year and I only did maintenance once, and it was great. It was wonderful not having to do maintenance 12 times, right, in a year. But what I learned was that I had tons of marriages even though I was separating. And so what that meant was that I needed to go in and separate and try to reestablish parts to the best of my ability. You guys know that I maintain my own locks, so that is quite the daunting task, let me just tell you. So then I was like, well, yeah, while I enjoyed not doing much to my locks, I don't think I quite want to be a freeformer because I still want to have some overall control in terms of how my locks look and how they lay, where they lay, things like that. So I knew that freeforming was not really for me. But then also I learned when I was doing all that separating and trying to like reestablish parts that maintenance wasn't really for me either. And so at that point, it dawned on me like light shining from above that, hey, maybe you should become a semi-freeformer. Maybe you should have the best of both worlds. Because, Atreyu, yes, you like a fresh retwist look, but you also like the look of your locks and your hair when it's not retwisted. And so that is how I kind of arrived at the semi-freeform quest that I am on. Let me reiterate and emphasize that the only reason that I'm able to be a semi-freeform locker is because I know of the braid technique. And that is important because I have hair that grows away from my locks. Hey, if you are enjoying this video, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you are notified every single time I upload. How about that? Now, if I was someone who did not have hair that grows away from my locks, but instead someone who has hair that grows into my locks month after month after month, then I wouldn't need the braid technique. Then I could just go on living my lock life, not ever doing any maintenance, not really having to separate a ton. Probably be a little bit of separating that I have to do, but negligible compared to what I actually have to do. And that would be wonderful. I was not blessed in that way because I have hair that grows away from my locks. So to be a semi-freeformer, I have to every so often braid that new growth into my locks. If I don't, my locks will thin out and eventually break off. I've never gotten to the point where I've lost a lock. In 7+ years, I've never lost a lock. I'm proud of those stats. But yeah, this is how I became a semi-freeform locker. So it was really kind of through trial and error and figuring out like what will work best for me. So just to recap, I started out as like hardcore manicure locker, retwisting once a month. And then I followed a couple of trends, ran into some problems, found some solutions, and then learned that, hey, I've kind of gotten a taste of not doing maintenance so often, so let me not do that maintenance as often, right? But then I realized at some point that I wanted some control over how my locks looked, so that kind of took me away from going too extreme on the side of not doing maintenance, and it kind of pushed me back to that center. So manicure, freeform, and then in the center where they meet is where I reside. This is where that semi-freeform journey or quest resides, and that's where I am. So hopefully today's video will kind of give you an idea of how I became a semi-freeform locker and why semi-freeform dreads are for me. For me, it is where they're at. It's the best of both worlds. Sometimes you get to have that really neat, polished, not too tight, but neat and polished look. And then at other times you get to experience what it means to like really be free and not bound to like styles and assimilating to look like everybody else or trying to look like everybody else even though you never could. But you know, that doesn't stop people from trying, right? And I love my semi-freeform locks. I really do. So you guys will definitely have to let me know in the comment section below how you decided upon the type of lock journey that you are on. If you're a freeformer, did you start your journey out as a freeformer? If you are a semi-freeformer, did you start out as a manicure locker and then eventually transition your way to semi-freeform locks like me? I am very curious to hear your story. I want to know what type of lock journey you're on and when you knew that particular lock journey was right for you. If you choose to love, do so unconditionally, because loving with conditions conditions the heart to not really love at all. This is Atreyu Locs, and I will see you next week. Peace.